Breaking news right now. Right now, our newsroom is being flooded with calls about an explosion heard on the north side.
Yeah, I even was checking Facebook and seeing my mini feed. A couple friends that live on the north side saying that they heard what sounds like a boom that almost shook their homes. I'm trying to ask them questions to get some more information, but also just spoke with JFRD, hearing that there's something going on at the JEA generator plant. We don't have details confirmed with that, but that's what the call went out as. We tried to call JSO, haven't received anything yet from them, but callers again telling us they heard a loud boom sounding like an explosion, big enough to shake the homes there. So as we know more, we're going to bring it to you live. We have Allison Henning on the way there. As soon as she gets there, we're going to come up live and we can hear from her what's going on the ground, of course.
Absolutely. In other
The morning show starts right now with a breaking news alert.
Good morning. We are following some breaking news on the north side. Our newsroom has been flooded with calls about a possible explosion.
You're all telling us you heard loud booms which woke you up this morning. We have just received new information. Allison Henning is live on the north side. Allison, what have you learned?
So JEA did just confirm to us that it was FPL. They had an implosion this morning of one of their towers at their Cedar Bay plant. We did find a Daily Record article from last year that said that FPL was set to start tearing down its coal-fired power plant at Cedar Bay. That was supposed to start sometime this year. That plant was shut down back in 2016. That Daily Record article also states that the project had a 440-day schedule, putting completion around March 1st next year. It's still unclear if today's implosion was a part of that process, but I did reach out to FPL to get some more information. I just touched base with them on the phone. I'm expecting a call back here in a few minutes to get some more information on that. You know, we just wanted to put some people at mind. We got a lot of those phone calls coming into the newsroom, people feeling the ground shaking from that implosion, the really loud explosion. So we understand it's scary for a lot of people, but we do want to just let you know that it was a planned FPL implosion at their Cedar Bay plant. As soon as we get some more information, we'll bring that to you. Reporting live, Allison Henning, Channel 4, the local station.
And one of the individuals who heard and felt the explosion was our meteorologist, Rebecca Berry.
Rebecca's joining us by phone. Good morning, Rebecca. So what did it sound like to you?
It sounded awful. I was out in the backyard. I was cleaning the windows, and the first boom was the loudest, and there was a small kind of boom or echo behind it, but it was probably at least 10 times louder than that implosion that we all watched of those cooling towers. I was in the same location for that, and you could barely hear that from my house. And so I got a little worried because obviously it sounded terrible. The windows that I was washing, they actually vibrated, and you could feel them moving underneath your hand with the explosion. I have some very lightweight patio furniture that moved and shook, and you could feel, and even your mind was just racing, you know, what's going on. I've only been in a very small earthquake once, and I wondered if that had anything, if there was any seismic connection with what was going on. So it's good to hear that it might be a planned thing.
That's really scary. Rebecca, you say that was the first boom. Was there more than one boom, one explosion?
It was probably a reverberation. It was all like within a matter of a second. And so the first one happened, and then it just kind of rumbled on or continued for another maybe half second.
Are other people like coming outside to investigate? Because I know we've had a lot of calls and seen a lot on social media, people scared about this. Did you have anybody asking you, like your neighbors?
No, not a lot of people out and about this morning, and I'm in the backyard, and so I don't have any neighbors on this side. And so, you know, I looked out across the river to see if maybe there was a smoke plume or anything, and I didn't see anything. I can't see in the direction that it came from or it felt like it came from. My husband's out on the river fishing, and I called him and said, hey, can you see anything? Did you hear it? And he's like, yeah, we heard it. We didn't know what was going on.
And did he see smoke either or no?
No, he didn't see any smoke. He's not quite down he's not closer to the Dames Point. He's closer to the mouth and the inlet, and so he couldn't see anything from there.
Man, that's so crazy. Well, Rebecca, we're glad everybody's okay, and you know,
Me
again,
too.
we're hearing it was a planned thing, but you know, of course, we were not notified, and obviously the homeowners were not either in that area. So yeah, pretty scary situation, but glad everybody's okay.
morning show starts right now with a breaking news alert.
It's now 9:30. We continue to follow breaking news, a power plant implosion on the north side.
Many of you called us saying that you heard and felt a loud boom. Allison Henning is live this morning on the north side. Allison?
Zach, Ashley, the good news is it was planned, as we learned in the last half hour. Florida Power and Light imploded one of its towers at its Cedar Bay plant, which was shut down back in 2016. We do know there were plans for demolition, but other details of the plan were unclear. It was estimated that the entire plant would be demolished by March of next year. You might remember that JEA just this June, a few months ago, imploded two of its cooling towers, but today's Florida Power and Light implosion took the community by surprise, and us as well. We were not made aware or given any notice of today's implosion, but we're working to figure out more details on that. Also, another heads up to people who live in this area, JEA and FPL do have another implosion of a smokestack planned for sometime possibly as early as later this summer. That is a separate project from the implosion that happened today. It's going to be happening at the St. John's Power Park, just a heads up. So if you do happen to hear another explosion like you may have heard this morning, just know that there is another implosion planned for, again, as I mentioned, as soon as early this summer. We are going to continue following this, and hopefully we did reach out to FPL to get some video of this morning's implosion, so those of you who live in this area can see exactly where that big explosion came from. We, of course, will keep you updated. Reporting live this morning, Allison Henning, Channel 4, the local station.
A spokeswoman from Florida Power and Light is joining us now on the phone.
Her name is Sarah Gatewood. Good morning, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So describe what was going on this morning.
Well, as you guys mentioned, we have an old power plant, Cedar Bay, that was a coal-fired plant that we shut down about a year and a half ago. And we are demolishing that plant now, so and the land will go back to the landowner. And we have building a lot more solar around the Jacksonville area to help pick up some of the slack.
I know we have a team, Sarah, on the ground outside near that facility. A lot of folks that we're hearing from this morning, this implosion was loud and it scared a lot of folks. I know we're hearing that there might be another implosion later this summer. Can you give us an exact date on when that might happen?
I don't know about something planned for later this summer. I don't know if that's at a different plant or not. But, we for this plant, we do have some more pieces that will come down, and we'll be working on cleaning up that site and taking out all the debris and rubble over the coming weeks.
Sarah, were there any complications with this implosion? And I ask because we had word that there were police and ambulances out there, and I also know that our fire department was notified and was called out there.
I'm not aware of any problems. It's not uncommon for emergency officials to come and check it out because there is a loud noise and people do get concerned. But we did notify everyone as we were supposed to, and we have been following up to make sure everyone knows what's going on, and any officials that are out there working with them.
So how did you guys notify the public? Because people in the neighborhoods definitely said they missed that notification, and I know we never received one either. I just didn't know, is there a way for people to sign up for something like this, or how was the notification sent out?
Well, for local media, I reached out to all the local media yesterday so that you guys would have a heads up. And then I know that some of our demolition team reached out to the community, but I'm not sure of exactly how they did that. But we did reach out to a lot of the neighbors so that they would be aware. But it can be very loud. So unfortunately, I apologize if we took people by surprise.
And Sarah, just so we're clear, when you say you reached out to local media and nearby residents, you reached out to the local media here in Jacksonville and nearby residents here in Jacksonville?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time this morning. Again, Sarah Gatewood from Florida Power and Light. Again, thank you very much.
Live from the local station, News 4 Jax starts now.
The North Side community on edge after a series of utility company implosions. Our cameras were rolling when this tower comes down. Neighbors telling News 4 Jax they woke up in a panic, worrying that something had gone wrong.
So it scared me to death, and I jumped up, and my 2 little dogs were just barking all over the place, but we didn't know what it was.
That neighbor lives blocks away from that implosion, which was one of at least 3 reported. She says she was never alerted by Florida Power and Light. In the past hour, I reached out to the city of Jacksonville to see what local leaders knew about these scheduled implosions. A spokesperson for the mayor's office tells me, quote, I personally have not heard anything or been notified. I also reached out to the 3 city council members whose districts surround this region, Joyce Morgan, Al Ferraro, and Reggie Gaffney. So far, I've only heard back from Councilman Gaffney. He was not aware of the implosions, but is contacting JEA to see if he can find out anything more. But keep in mind, I'm told these are an FP&L implosion, not JEA. We also reached out to FP&L for comment. The utility spokeswoman said they did notify residents, JSO and JFRD, about the implosions at a closed coal-fired power plant on Eastport Road.
I reached out to all the local media yesterday so that you guys would have a heads up. And then I know that some of our demolition team reached out to the community, but I'm not sure of exactly how they did that. But we did reach out to a lot of the neighbors so that they would be aware. But it can be very loud. So unfortunately, I apologize if we took people by surprise.
Of today's blast, tell News4Jax they were left in the dark too. Ethan Calloway is live. Neighbors were told about the implosions.
Yeah, Scott, a lot of people in this area really concerned about this. We received a number of phone calls in our newsroom with people asking us if we knew about it in advance. Of course, we do know what those loud booms were now, and word has slowly gotten out here in the community as well. But some, they really told us they feared the worst when they heard those sounds today. With so many industrial complexes in this area, they were worried something might have gone wrong and people might have gotten hurt. One man heard what he describes as very loud booms around 8 this morning. He tells us the explosions rattled the windows of his home and says FPL should have made sure people in the community were aware of what was happening before those blasts. And from what we know, these blasts are now finished for the day. Neighbors here say they hope this will be handled differently in the future if it is ever done again. We're live on the north side. I'm Ethan Calloway, Channel 4, the local station. Scott.
What about police? Did JSO know anything about the implosions ahead of time?
Yeah, they did, Scott. They didn't know anything ahead of time. JSO tells us they were receiving those calls just like we were from people in the community wondering what those sounds were. And in fact, they even sent out officers here to check things out and make sure everything was okay. So they were just as taken off guard by it as we were. Scott?
Ethan Calloway, thank you. And our coverage continues online. There you can read the breakdown of the city leaders' responses. We've also posted the uncut video from the Sky 4 drone. You can find those inside our stories on the homepage of News4Jax.com. Silence on the north side. A quiet night after neighbors were shaken awake by the sounds of implosions. Florida Power and Light demolishing several of its buildings. Neighbors say they were given no warning.
I think that everyone should be notified for something of that magnitude. Believe me, it was not small.
And those neighbors are not the only ones in shock tonight. Neither the city of Jacksonville nor here at News4Jax were we notified. We've reached out to everyone from police to fire rescue, and everyone says they were left in the dark. Our Ethan Calloway has been on this story since we first brought it to you, developing with details at 6. Ethan joins us now. FP&L is telling a much different story, Ethan.
Yeah, Scott, an FPL spokesperson actually tells us that the contractor in charge of those implosions today did reach out to the necessary agencies, but those same agencies tell us that is not what happened. As the towers at FPL's old Cedar Bay plant came down Saturday morning, the sounds of explosions rocked this community, taking many by surprise. But Florida Power and Light tells News4Jax there should have been no surprise. The company says both JSO and Jacksonville Fire Rescue were notified 4 days ahead of the demolition.
I don't know the specifics of how the contractor reached out to them, but part of the process is that they do reach out to local emergency management officials so that they know it's going to happen.
Spokesperson Sarah Gatewood says FPL's contractor told them they took those steps. She says she can't be as certain if that contractor reached out to local residents. Those neighbors tell us they were given no prior warning about the blasts.
It would have been nice to know ahead of time because it was a loud explosion, and we have companies around here, and we've already had one major explosion on Fay Road, and so you think, is it something else? You know, is it some other kind of major catastrophe just happens?
I do not know. I have to find out more on the rest of it. I was given a heads up so that I could give you guys a heads up, so that's all I know.
FPL claims it also notified local media, including News 4 Jax, by phone about the explosions. We searched through emails, online news releases, and even spoke with News 4 Jax employees, finding there was no notification. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, JFRD, and City Hall all confirmed they, too, were not given prior warning. As for what's next, it is not clear if FPL plans to continue this demolition tomorrow or any other day in the future. We did speak with a worker at the site today who said they had run out of dynamite, but it is not clear if they plan to continue because he did not comment on that. We are live tonight. I'm Ethan Calloway, Channel 4, the local station.
And as we mentioned a moment ago, we reached out to the city of Jacksonville to see what local leaders knew about these scheduled implosions. I was in touch with a spokesperson for the mayor's office who told me, quote, "I personally have not heard anything or been notified." News 4 Jax also reached out to 3 city council members whose districts surround the region: Joyce Morgan, Al Ferrero, and Reggie Gaffney. So far, I've talked to Reggie Gaffney. I haven't heard from anyone else. He tells me he was not aware of the implosions, but is contacting JEA to see if he can find out anything more. But keep in mind, this was not a JEA implosion. It was conducted by Florida Power and Light. And these local leaders are not alone. As News 4 Jax reporter Allison Henning tells us, neighbors say they were frightened to hear the loud bangs so early in the morning.
An interesting morning for people living on the north side. Several people calling our newsroom this morning after waking up in a panic after hearing what sounded like an explosion.
I was sound asleep, and it sounded just like the one a couple months ago when they blew up the power plant over there, but it was like 3 different booms. So it scared me to death, and I jumped up, and my 2 little dogs were just barking all over the place, but we didn't know what it was.
It turns out the explosions were actually an implosion at an old FPL power plant. JEA tells News 4 Jax that the first attempt at bringing down a 600-foot tower failed this morning. We were here when it finally came down earlier this afternoon. You might remember the implosion of these 2 JEA cooling towers back in June. They became a spectacle to thousands across our area. Many people we talked with today were wondering why they weren't made aware of FPL's demolition.
I knew nothing about it. When the one they did on Alton Hexture, we knew all about that. I mean, people were lining the streets ready for that, and that was exciting. But this was scary because you had no idea what it was.
Would you have liked to have been notified?
I think that everyone should be notified for something of that magnitude. Believe me, it was not small.
Jim Bradley lives along the Broward River, not far from the plant. He says his home's foundation was shaking from the loud bang.
It's very bizarre that they wouldn't have said something.
He, too, would have liked a heads up. On the north side, Allison Henning, Channel 4, the local station.
Thank you, Allison. And our coverage continues online. There you can read the breakdown of city leaders' responses. We've also posted the uncut video from the Sky 4 drone. You can find those inside our story on the homepage of news4jax.com. Neighbors in the north side are still in shock after waking up to a loud boom and rattling windows. Many are wondering why they weren't given prior warning about several implosions happening at the nearby power plant. Our cameras were rolling when this tower came down. This was one of 3, at least 3, scheduled implosions from Florida Power and Light. But here at Channel 4, we were not notified. Neither was the mayor's office, Jacksonville Police, Fire Rescue, residents. News 4 Jax reporter Ethan Calloway is live blocks away from where the towers came crashing down today. Ethan, what have you learned from those who live in the area?
Well, Scott, Florida Power and Light, a representative from Florida Power and Light says the contractor in charge of this demolition was supposed to alert residents here to what was happening. She says she cannot be certain if that happened or not, but the residents we actually spoke with say there is no question they did not find out of this ahead of time. As towers like this one came crashing down at the old Cedar Bay power plant, the sounds of blasts could be heard Saturday morning all across the north side. But those living in the area say they didn't know what was causing the loud noises because no one told them.
I was sound asleep, and it sounded just like the one a couple months ago when they blew up the power plant over there, but it was like 3 different booms.
All of a sudden I heard 4 loud explosions, just continuous boom, 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 just like that.
Robert Raines was one of the neighbors caught off guard by the ear-splitting sounds.
Like, well, that wasn't good because it was like, that's not a car wreck, you know, it was something major because they were loud explosions.
Raines tells us he saw around 11 fire engines rushing to the nearby power plant and worried something catastrophic had happened. He says it shows JFRD was also left in the dark about what was actually happening.
To see that many trucks going down the road and that many men and personnel, I mean, that would maybe needed somewhere else, are all headed in this one direction towards this scene that wasn't, nothing even really happened apparently, you know, and then yeah, that's a lot of money, a lot of wasted money. So
Nobody knew. I mean, and there's, I guess, people that are, you know, veterans or whatever that, you know, could have scared them, but nobody knew.
And it is still not clear if more implosions are planned here in the days to come. As for the neighbors here, they tell me if more is scheduled, they hope they will get some warning this time. We're live on the north side tonight. Ethan Calloway, Channel 4, the local station.
In other coverage of this, News4 Jax reporter Ashley Spicer, spoke with FP&L, the current owners of the tower that imploded at Cedar Bay, and why residents were not notified.
The noise was so loud and jarring, it shook homes just before 8 o'clock. Neighbors were upset. No one told them they would be awoken to what sounded like an explosion. I spoke to the Florida Power and Light, asking them why no one knew about the implosion they say was planned.
I reached out to all the local media yesterday so that you guys would have a heads up. And then I know that some of our demolition team reached out to the community, but I'm not sure of exactly how they did that. But we did reach out to a lot of the neighbors so that they would be aware. But it is can be very loud. So unfortunately, I apologize if we took people by surprise.
What about residents? How were residents notified?
I do not know. I have to find out more on the rest of it.
Okay.
I was given a heads up so that I could give you guys a heads up. So that's all I know about this at this point.
Okay, but there were no emails or flyers or anything like that, though.
No.
Okay.
I did by phone.
But we, along with other media outlets, did not report the planned implosion because we were not aware of any implosion.
As far as JSO and JFRD go, our police and fire department, were they notified ahead of time to be there before it happened, or how did that process work?
Well, I don't know the specifics of how the contractor reached out to them, but part of the process is that they do reach out to local emergency management officials so that they know it's going to happen. You know, our contractor said that they did that, but I don't know the details of how or when he did that. But it should have been done before this morning, yes.
Ashley Spicer, Channel 4, the local station.
Our coverage of the story continues online, where you can read the breakdown of the responses from city leaders as well as FP&L. We've also posted the uncut video from our Sky 4 drone inside this story on the homepage of news4jax.com.